An ITV News investigation has revealed how seasonal workers on British farms are being given substandard accommodation to live in. At one location in Essex, we filmed a caravan which was damp and cold with a broken heater and toilet. At the site, 3 workers had to share 2 beds. One told us the migrant workers were treated like slaves. And at another location, a prestigious fruit farm in Aberdeenshire, we heard from workers who told us there was overcrowding in the static caravans they live in with no privacy. There's also concern about how much they're being charged by the employers for the accommodation. After seeing our pictures, Scotland's First Minister promised to look into the issue. Our correspondent Peter Smith has this special report.
With damp and mould growing on the walls, this old, leaky caravan is what seasonal farm workers coming to the UK are expected to live in for the 6 months they're here. Footage we've obtained shows windows in a state of disrepair, the furniture stained, the heater doesn't work. Even the toilet here is broken. This place is called Leabank Nursery in Essex, and the footage is filmed by farm workers from Central Asia growing and picking aubergines here for a company called Gregorio's Produce. They are charged £300 a month per person to live like this. It comes out of their minimum wage pay, and 3 workers have to share 2 beds.
The caravan was disgusting and cold. There weren't even enough beds. I had to sleep sitting on a chair. Then they gave me an old sofa from the barn. That smelled of cat urine. The relationship felt like slaves.
The owner of Leabank Nursery denied the allegations we put to him. Gregorio's Produce, who employed these workers, told us, "We do accept that the caravans that were used may require refurbishment." We shared our findings with the labour provider for this farm. They told us the seasonal workers have since been transferred elsewhere, and they've reported these conditions to the Home Office. But the farm in Essex is not the only place we found concerns about accommodation.
Our family have been here since 1992.
In the northeast of Scotland, Castleton is one of the country's biggest, most prestigious farms. Family run, owned by Ross and Anna Mitchell. They've had a visit from royalty, and their website boasts that you'll see their famous strawberries on the shelves at Marks & Spencer, Tesco, Waitrose and Lidl. This is the promise Castleton officially gives to those coming here on seasonal work visas.
At Castleton, we are able to provide workers with accommodation in static caravan, which 4 people share, with all the comfort you will need: separate bedrooms, living area, bathroom and kitchen.
But we have seen the reality. 2 people, sometimes strangers, are crammed into small caravan bedrooms, sleeping almost side by side. They do a physical job by day, and then this is how they must sleep at night for the 6 months they live here. There's also evidence of the furniture being aged, in some cases clearly damaged. We've seen these living conditions, but we've also been looking into how much the workers are being charged to stay in these caravans, and it is well above average for accommodation in this area. To put it into context, a 2-bedroom caravan here is being rented out for about £1,200 a month. We've checked, and that is more than double the going rate for a modern 2-bedroom apartment in the towns nearest here. 2 people here. 2 people. After finishing a shift on the Aberdeenshire farm, 3 workers at Castleton agreed to meet me and speak anonymously. They said living in these conditions and being charged so much feels like exploitation.
Our
caravans are really bad. We are sleeping far too closely together. There's no privacy. You lose your dignity living like this.
Despite paying such high rent already, these workers tell me they've also been threatened with a £100 fine if the caravan is deemed to be untidy.
We came here to do a job, but this is not how we expected workers in Great Britain would be treated. It feels like we are being discriminated against.
We can report that seasonal workers are not being given equal protections in law, and that's due to a legal loophole identified in our investigation. Caravan accommodation housing so many people like this should normally require HMO licences and would normally be subject to inspections by local authorities. But caravans for seasonal farm workers are specifically exempt from this. The legislation is devolved, so we showed our footage from Castleton to Scotland's First Minister.
Well, those conditions look unacceptable, completely unacceptable, and obviously the points that you're putting to me about cost are equally troubling as well.
These agricultural workers are not actually being given the same protections that people who would expect if they were going to work and their employer was giving them accommodation in other sectors. Is that something that you would commit to looking at?
I think where people are making that contribution of coming here, they've got to be well supported and well looked after.
And if there is a loophole in legislation in Scotland that's allowing that to happen, would you agree that should be closed?
I'll certainly explore that, all those issues.
Castleton Farm say they try to avoid having strangers sharing bedrooms, and in a statement told us they are replacing static style caravans with a modern chalet style. They say we take great pride in the accommodation and conditions we provide, which they say represents good value compared with private sector accommodation. ITV News is not accusing either farm in this report of illegality. The government issues the visas and sets the rate for how much seasonal workers are allowed to be charged for accommodation. But neither government nor local authorities have inspected these caravans to see if they were suitable or if the conditions fairly reflect what workers are being charged. And that is leaving a bitter taste with those we rely on to harvest our fields and stock our supermarket shelves.
And Peter joins us now. Peter, really shocking conditions that you've revealed there. Who is responsible for fixing this?
Well, here I've heard from the Scottish Government, they say they're looking into whether legislation can address that loophole. The First Minister told me he'll take a personal interest in this, but I've also seen a letter from Scotland's Rural Affairs Minister saying that she's not aware of any inspections on seasonal worker accommodation by local authorities for at least the last 5 years. And the farm we saw in Essex, the council there said the last inspection on that site was 6 years ago. We've contacted the Health and Safety Executive. They say they don't have the powers to inspect accommodation for the type of conditions that we've raised in our report, those types of concerns. We've contacted the Gang Masters and Labour Abuse Authority. They say that if a caravan is provided by the farm, it's not licensed, and then they can't inspect. We're talking about 30,000 seasonal worker visas issued every year. The UK government says they're clamping down on poor working conditions and exploitation. They also say that the agricultural sector could not function without these workers. It's worth £14 billion a year to the UK economy. These are workers who toil in our fields by day, and yet what we're finding in our investigation is that no government agency, no local authority is taking the time to inspect the conditions that they are expected to sleep in at night.